The Talpiot Tomb is a rock-cut tomb discovered in 1980 in the East Talpiot neighborhood, 5 kilometers south of the Old City in East Jerusalem. It contained 10 ossuaries, 6 inscribed with epigraphs, including one interpreted as Yeshua bar Yehoseph, though the inscription is partially illegible, and its translation and interpretation is widely disputed. The tomb also yielded various human remains and several carvings. The Talpiot discovery was documented in 1994 in Catalogue of Jewish Ossuaries in the Collections of the State of Israel, Numbers chapters 701 to 709, and first discussed in the media in the United Kingdom during March-April 1996. Later that year, an article describing the find was published in Volume 29 of Attribution, the Journal of the Israel Antiquities Authority. A controversial documentary film, The Lost Tomb of Jesus, was produced in 2007 by director James Cameron and investigative journalist Simcha Jacobovici, and was released in conjunction with a book by Jacobovici and Charles Pellegrino titled The Jesus Family Tomb. The book and film make the case that the Talpiot Tomb was the burial place of Jesus of Nazareth, members of his extended family, and several other figures from the New Testament, and, by inference, that Jesus had not risen from the dead as the New Testament describes. This conclusion is disputed by many archaeologists, theologians, and linguistic and biblical scholars. History. The archaeological team that excavated the tomb in 1980 determined it to be from the Second Temple Third Temple period, which lasted from about 538 BC to AD 70. Typical of the area, a tomb of this type would be assumed to have belonged to a wealthy Jewish family. About 900 similar tombs have been unearthed in the same area. Discovery and excavation. The tomb was discovered on March 28, 1980, by construction workers laying the foundations for an apartment complex, when preparatory demolition work accidentally uncovered the tomb's entrance. The site was visited the next day by Amos Klonner, the area supervisor for the Israel Department of Antiquities. Klonner drew up a set of preliminary sketches and requested a permit for a salvage dig, to be directed by Yosef Gatt. The permit was issued Monday, March 31, but work actually began the day before, although it has been said that the team was given only 3 days to complete the work. Gatt's notes indicate that the work proceeded intermittently until its official end on April 11, with most of the work completed within the first 2 days. Construction of the apartment buildings was completed in 1982. The children of Tova Bracha, a local resident, managed to get into the tomb and play inside. Bracha notified the authorities, who sealed the entrance for safety reasons. The children found some discarded Jewish religious texts that had been placed in the tomb, which was being used as a geniza. The tomb, which is not open to the public, is located in a courtyard on Dov Gruna Street, down a flight of stairs at the corner of Olia Haggadah and of Shalom Haviv Streets. It was reopened in 2005 by Jacobovici, without permission from the Antiques Authority, during filming of his documentary The Lost Tomb of Jesus, and resealed by officials shortly thereafter. In 2008, Ruth Gatt, the widow of the archaeologist who supervised the original excavation, claimed that her husband kept the discovery a secret until the mid-1990s because he feared a wave of anti-Semitism would ensue if the tomb's existence was made public. Layout. The tomb is carved from the solid limestone bedrock. Within are 6 kokim, or burial shafts, and 2 arcosolia, or arch shelves where a body could be laid out for entombment. The ossuaries were found within the shafts. Artifacts. Ossuaries. 10 limestone ossuaries were found, with 6 of them bearing epigraphs, although only 4 of them were recognized as such in the field. The archaeological team determined the ossuaries to be of little note, and delivered them to the Rockefeller Museum for analysis and storage. According to Jakubowicz, Cameron, and religious studies professor James Tabor, one of the unmarked ossuaries later disappeared when it was stored in a courtyard outside the museum. This claim has been criticized by both Josias, former curator of the museum, and Cloner. Each of the 10 ossuaries contained human remains, said to be in an advanced state of deterioration, by Amos Cloner. The tomb may have been multi-generational, with several generations of bones stored in each ossuary, but no record was kept of their contents and no analysis appears to have been done to determine how many individuals were represented by the bones found. In addition, 3 skulls were found on the floor of the tomb below the 0.5-meter fill layer, and crushed bones were found in the fill upon the arcosolia. The scattering of these bones below the fill indicated that the tomb had been disturbed in antiquity. All the bones were eventually turned over to religious authorities for burial. Symbols A chevron and circle pattern is visible above the entrance of the tomb. Media coverage. The BBC first aired a documentary on the Talpiot Tomb in 1996 as a part of its Heart of the Matter news magazine. At that time, Amos Cloner, the first archaeologist to examine the site, said the claims of a connection to Jesus did not hold up archaeologically, adding, "They just want to get money for it." Others were similarly skeptical, although another of the archaeologists who discovered the tomb admitted, "I'm willing to accept the possibility." 2008 Princeton Symposium. Following the symposium held in Jerusalem in January 2008, the media interest in the Talpiot Tomb was reignited, with most notably Time and CNN devoting extensive coverage, hailing the case as being reopened. In particular, Simcha Jakubowicz is reported to have issued statements to the press saying the symposium has reopened the case and that he felt totally vindicated. Jakubowicz has denied making any such press release. It was during this symposium that Ruth Gatt, while accepting a posthumous award for Yosef Gatt, announced, "My husband, the lead archaeologist of the East Talpiot Tomb in southern Jerusalem, believed that the tomb he excavated in 1980 was, indeed, the tomb of Jesus of Nazareth and his family." Following the media's portrayal, scholars present at the symposium accused Simcha Jakubowicz and James Cameron of misleading the media in claiming the symposium reopened their theory as viable. Several scholars, including significantly all of the archaeologists and epigraphers who had delivered papers at the symposium, issued an open letter of complaint claiming misrepresentation, saying that Jakubowicz and Cameron's claims of support from the symposium are nothing further from the truth, and also that the majority of scholars in attendance, including all of the archaeologists and epigraphers who presented papers relating to the tomb, either reject the identification of the Talpiot Tomb as belonging to Jesus' family or find this claim highly speculative. The list of scholars who signed the open letter of criticism included Professor Jody Magnus, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill; Professor Eric M. Myers, Duke University; Chun Leon SEOW, Princeton Theological Seminary; F.W. Dobbs Alsop, Princeton Theological Seminary; Lee McDonald, Princeton Theological Seminary, visiting; Rachel Hatchley, Haifa University; Moti Aviam, University of Rochester; Amos Cloner, Bar-Ilan University; Christopher Ralston, Emmanuel School of Religion; Shimon Gibson, University of North Carolina at Charlotte; Josias, Science and Antiquity Group, Jerusalem; Jonathan Price, Tel Aviv University; C.D. Elledge, Gustavus Adolphus College; Josias, Senior Curator of Archaeology, Anthropology for the Israel Antiquities Authority 1972–1997, cited a leaked memo issued from James Tabor before the symposium as proof of outside intervention by Simcha and Tabor in order to distort the agenda and skew the proceedings in a way that was favorable to their preconceived plan. Acute said Abrams issued a statement saying that the arguments for the Talpiot Tomb are not just unconvincing but insignificant, that discounting a handful, headed by James Tabor and Simcha Jacobovici, the maker of the documentary, The Lost Tomb of Jesus. Most of the 50 or so participants shared this opinion. Princeton Theological Seminary issued a letter following the controversy and reiterated concerns that the press following the symposium gave almost the exact opposite impression, stating, instead, that the conference proceedings gave credence to the identification of the Talpiot Tomb with a putative family tomb of Jesus of Nazareth, as is abundantly clear from the statements to the contrary that have been issued since the symposium by many of the participants. Such representations are patently false and blatantly misrepresent the spirit and scholarly content of the deliberations. The proceedings of the symposium will be edited by James Charles Worth and published. An edition of the scientific journal Near Eastern Archaeology, published by the American Schools of Oriental Research, contains several articles concerning the Talpiot Tomb, including an overview over the controversy. The Lost Tomb of Jesus and the Jesus Family Tomb. The Lost Tomb of Jesus premiered on the Discovery Channel on March 4, 2007. Time to coordinate with publication of Jacobovici's book The Jesus Family Tomb. Jacobovici argues that the bones of Jesus, Mary and Mary Magdalene, along with those of some of their relatives, were once entombed in this cave. Working with statisticians, archaeologists, historians, DNA experts, robot camera technicians, epigraphers and a forensic expert to argue his case. This claim is rejected by most biblical scholars of archaeology. Israeli archaeologist Amos Klona, who was among the first to examine the tomb when it was first discovered, said the names marked on the coffins were very common at the time. I don't accept the news that it was used by Jesus or his family, he told the BBC News website. The documentary filmmakers are using it to sell their film. In 2011, Tabor and Jacobovici examined the previously unexcavated first-century Jewish tomb next to the alleged Jesus family tomb. The results of that examination have not yet been released. Tabor indicated that they would be released at a press conference in November 2011, and in a forthcoming book.